I'm Chris, and I am in the category team at Banforman. I'm also co-lead of Grow, which is Growing Remarkable and Outstanding Women. And my other co-lead is Caroline, who I'm going to hand over to talk through a bit about Grow.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Caroline. I head up the marketing team for Jack Daniels in the UK. As Chris said, we're going to talk to you about Grow, an initiative from Banforman. First, before we get in, we wanted to say thank you to Elliot and to the team, because it's actually the first time that we get to talk about the initiative of Grow at Banforman, outside of Banforman. So thank you. It's a bit of a first for the both of us, but hopefully you'll take something away from that presentation today. So what we're going to cover, a little bit about Banforman and Grow initiative, setting a group like Grow, why and what. Chris will talk about something very important, allies and the support of male allies. And then we'll leave you with practical tips to build diverse teams. When we get started at the recruitment stage, we're sharing those tips with you. They are live and kicking in our organization. So hopefully you can take them away and implement them too. So first, Banforman, because the name may not be familiar to everybody. So it's a leading spirits manufacturer worldwide. We are quite established in the UK. You may know us better for Jack Daniels and some good whiskey. We also have amazing tequilas, gin, and other spirits brands, but mainly known for Jack Daniels. I'm lucky enough to work on that brand every day. So truly inspiring. When it comes to building diverse teams at Banforman, there is a vision or a goal to be able to get to gender parity across all levels of the organization. And that is up to senior executive level. In the UK, we are very lucky we got there. So half of our leadership team is female, and actually 54% of our people leaders are female. So we are quite advanced on that journey on behalf of the Banforman Group. This year, we were awarded Best Workplace for Women. We're super proud of that big achievement. And we believe that the makeup of our organization is partly a reason for being such a great place to work for women. We have amazing role models, but more importantly, we have that diverse thinking, which is powerful and usually what's behind high-performing teams. So in terms of Grow now, I'm going to get to the Grow, which is quite a big acronym for Growing Remarkable and Outstanding Women. At the bottom, you've got the picture of the team. It's 10 of us. It's quite a big team, but it doesn't have to be 10. You can start with 2 people. The Grow Employee Resource Group, it's been going on for more than 10 years. So that's why it's quite established now. We have many groups of employee groups in Banforman, and this one is probably the most mature, the most advanced. And that's why we also have quite a lot of people engaging. We have a sponsor, our marketing director, Jennifer Powell. Chris and I are co-leads, and then we have the lovely faces of a few of us on the screen who are part of the committee group. The vision for Grow, pretty simple. It's to make sure that all women, regarding of their race, their background, their ethnicity, their religion, anything, can be represented at Banforman and also can be empowered to achieve their desired career potential. So there is quite a focus on a woman and their career at Grow. So what do we do in practical terms? Because that sounds quite, fluffy maybe, but what do we do? So the first thing we're doing is raising awareness and inspiring through the organization. You can't really raise awareness with one email a year. So what we're trying to do is regularly talking about the opportunities and the challenges that women are facing in the workplace. So we do meet regularly as a committee, and then we provide content regularly as well. We're using podcasts, we're using newsletters, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel because there is loads of content out there. Chris got some more for you further down, but there is a lot of things that you can put out there just to raise awareness across your organization and inspire people. For some employees who are more interested or keener to deepen their knowledge, we also have a book club. The last book we read is called The Polar Principle. We recommend. We're also sharing TED Talks between each other, and then we make the time to comment, to talk about it. The beauty generally comes from the conversation you're having on the back of the TED Talk. If you just watch the TED Talk on your own, it's great, but the real beauty is to talk about it, exchanging views. And that's where you keep deepening the knowledge through the organization. We work with HR and we engage our HR partners. So at the moment, we're working on an exciting toolkit, which is called the Sponsorship Toolkit. Now, typically, women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. And women are 54% less likely than men to have a sponsor. You just drop those numbers in a room and suddenly, people are interested. So we have a toolkit, for example, that talks about the difference between mentored and being sponsored, the benefits of being sponsored for your career, how you get about starting a sponsoring relationship. So I'm pretty excited about that. We celebrate and we do have events. Obviously, we're in the hospitality business. We like our drinks. So we tend to do lunches or drinks in the office to talk about, themes which we want to push. We want to raise awareness again. Typically, Women History Month is a busy month in March for us. We have lots of events around that. We have speakers outside of the organization coming to tell their stories. And finally, we are educating and engaging around the topic of allies, which I get on to talk about, being an ally. Being an ally, the first thing is to understand your privilege. It's not easy to explain for me. It's about the things that you don't really have to worry about in your professional or personal life. So a good friend of mine who's a Black woman from the Caribbean told me about white privilege. And the fact that I don't really have to worry about being a white woman. So understanding your privilege is quite important. Taking the time, learn. The second one is to listen, listen and learn. It's more about listening, hearing, as opposed to answering or commenting. And the third one is to speak up. So what I would say is Chris and I today, we're trying that. We are talking about what we do in our organization outside of our organization. And for us, that's the first step to talk about it, to be an ally, to promote women in their career. Realize you're going to make mistakes. We all do, we're humans. The trick is to own them and then to move on. There's no place for guilt in there. And then ally is a verb. So for the male audience in this virtual room, coach, sponsor, mentor a woman. The question is not why, it's more why not doing it. And then I'm going to get to Chris, who's going to talk to you about ally. He's been very involved in that. He's passionate about it. So super happy for him to take the floor to talk to you about that.
Thanks, Caroline. So obviously, Caroline talked about her experience being a white woman as a white man. Obviously, it's even more extreme experience for me in trying to understand my privileges and how I can be a better ally. And fundamentally, being an ally is about being the colleague or the person you want to work with. And it's quite rewarding because everything you learn, you can apply outside of work as well as inside of work. So at Banforman, we actually have something called the BF Ally Continuum. And it's a spectrum from actively discriminating, which hopefully nobody's doing, to really confronting any kind of discrimination, being a fierce advocate to take that on. So it's something we look at. And again, different situations, people may react in different ways and in different areas of the spectrum. So that's a great way to get people who perhaps are not actively discriminating, but aren't really engaged, and talking about how they can move along that spectrum. In terms of allies generally, again, I think a lot of people here will recognise the importance of allies in enacting change. But for those who aren't familiar with her, the video in the top left, which I'm going to play and hopefully will work technology-wise, is Megan Rapinoe, who was the 2019 World Women's Footballer of the Year. And upon receiving her award in front of all of these famous celebrities, predominantly men, being a football award show, she gave a really powerful speech. And I wanted to show you a short extract of that, because I don't think I can do justice to what she said. So, Claire, if you could give me a thumbs up if you can hear it when it starts, let's hope.
Good morning. I feel like if we really want to have meaningful change, what I think is most inspiring.
Okay, well, it sounds okay for us. So I guess what Megan was trying to say, without trying to explain her words for her, was the importance of allies in change around white people, for people of color, for members who aren't members of the LGBTQ community, and men for women. And it's very powerful considering the audience she was in front of as well. And again, I'd really recommend, if any of you can, to go and watch Meg. It's on YouTube. And again, I'm sure these decks will be shared out. So hopefully people will be able to hear the audio then. It was a really powerful way of looking at things. So obviously allyship's really, really important. But we also wanted to talk, get past the video, a bit about building diverse teams and how to get started within that as well. So as you can see from this image, I think some of you may have seen this image before, diverse teams are really, really important. Now, obviously, that's not just around gender. There's a whole range of different variables, but gender is an essential part of that. And we want to talk a little bit about what we're trying to do through growing through the business to ensure we build the most diverse possible teams. So the first thing is around job descriptions. Now, again, I know it's something that's touched on quite a lot, but it's ensuring that job descriptions are specifically targeted to make sure that they're as inclusive as possible. So choice of words in particular around those job descriptions and keeping them more straightforward and simple makes them more appealing, particularly to female applicants. And that goes beyond the job description. That's also the advert as well. Because obviously often people click through an advert and they might have the best job description ever, but if the advert is particularly appealing or understanding, then it's not really going to drive people to click through to it. So it's making it simpler and more straightforward. But it's also getting it read by a female colleague as well. Because ultimately, again, diversity doesn't apply just to the workforce every day, it also applies to the recruitment process. And that goes beyond descriptions. So it's also the pool of candidates as well. And it's really important to have obviously a good balance of candidates, so you don't have such a small pool to get that recruitment from. And that's why we tend to have not have hard deadlines for our adverts. Within reason, obviously we've got to recruit someone eventually, but we generally try to make sure that we wait till we have that broad set of candidates and extend that deadline if we feel we haven't got that. And then also making sure that we also have an interview panel that's representative as well. So that would include both male and female interviewers. And also as part of that as well, we do bias awareness training, because as I'm sure everyone's aware, we all have our bias in everyday life and in the workplace. So it's ensuring that we sort of cut that down as much as possible, because we recognise it's a challenge and we want to make sure that the panels themselves are well represented. So beyond that, we also want to talk about some of the new initiatives we're going to do. So obviously we've talked a lot around how Banforman got one of the best workplaces for women. For context, we've only been in own distribution for 18 months. We previously partnered with Bacardi. So our business has over tripled in size in terms of employees over 18 months. So while we've done some stuff already, we really want to ensure that we're not resting on our laurels, and we're really developing that further. So one thing we really want to do, which I think is one of the areas we're most excited about, is getting more external speakers in. So we'll be talking about topics such as career progression, intersectionality and allyship. And there's so many inspiring women out there, both famous and not famous, with fantastic stories. We want them to be heard. And as I'm sure everyone here would probably agree, one of the key things in sort of growing diversity in the business is getting people engaged with that element. And storytelling is a really powerful way to do that, and putting a face to a story. Bystander training is also an element we wanted to talk about, referring back to that spectrum we talked about earlier, in terms of a lot of people who would say perhaps they're not, or hopefully not sexist, but they're not necessarily being the best ally they can and helping people be more dynamic in terms of confronting certain situations. Maternity and return to work sessions. So that will be talking about integrating people back into the business after maternity leave, but also helping managers by providing them with a bit more of a guidebook and a framework. So when people are coming back to work, it's not down to the individual manager and their understanding and their personality. It's more about making sure we have a more up-to-date version of that return to work plan. And also UK lunches with leadership as well. So I know Sue touched on the importance of getting engagement from leadership. We're very lucky with our marketing director, Jennifer, as part of that core Grow committee team. And she's a great sounding board to talk for and a great advocate for us within the wider leadership business. But we also, as Caroline touched on, have 50% of our leadership team and a majority of our people leaders are women. So making sure that they're available, particularly for the more junior members of staff, to be able to go and have those conversations and get to know them better. So that's, again, hopefully some ideas about practical stuff you can do. As Caroline said, you don't have to start with 10 people doing loads of stuff. There's lots of different steps you can take to go through the process and develop. And again, I won't go through all of these now. When we share the deck out, there's a whole range of fantastic resources. People like to learn in different ways. I'm quite a podcasty video kind of person. Some people like to read a book or do a whole range of other things. So hopefully, and I'm sure there's a lot of you recognize at least some of these resources. There's something for everyone. And to Caroline's earlier point on newsletters, we tend to include a TED Talk and or one of these links in our newsletters each month. So we say, hey, this is what you can go to learn more, because there's a real appetite for people to learn more. So thank you for your time. I don't know if there's any questions that's come up, but we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Chris and Caroline. So please do write your questions in the chat box if you do have any. I have one actually, Chris. I was just wondering, how many men do you think are just want to support things like this, but they're just a bit afraid that they're going to get it wrong?
So if you were to ask the three biggest challenges we have as an ERG, they would be engagement, to the point made earlier, making it interesting for people to get involved. Coordination, because you can't enact change purely on your own. You need to get leadership, HR and other groups. And fear from potential allies. You're totally right. I've had a lot of conversations being part of Grow, and there's obviously not as many men in Grow, men coming to me going, I'd love to get involved, but what if I say the wrong thing? What if I do something, what if I say, hey guys, was actually what someone said to me. And their heart's in the right place, but I had to say, that's not what this is about. It's all the stuff we've just talked about. So yes, it's something that is really important, I think, is removing that barrier, particularly for potential allies, saying you don't need to worry, you can get involved. And we all make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. And I'm co-lead. And I'm co-lead of Grow. So it's all about learning from these experiences and being the best ally you possibly can. But it's a major barrier. And I think not just within Banforman, I think amongst every person I've spoken to about this.
Thank you, Chris. I should add as well that Chris is going to be holding a breakfast briefing session on how to be a male ally next month. So I'll give more information about that after. There is a question here from somebody. What is your strategy to assist employees to have a healthy drinking habit?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. Probably not the one with the best place to answer, but there is actually an employee resource group called PAUSE in our business, and they are championing healthy drinking habits, and their whole purpose in our organization is to be aware and to take the time to pause and to make sure that we offer internally employees choice. So we, for example, have a policy of never have an event where there is not a non-alcoholic drink. And our colleagues who are part of that employee resource group are very loud in our organizations about, talking about healthy habits, potentially the dangers that come with drinking. And they help us making us aware internally about that. So to be honest, I don't think we could do justice to their work, but if there is an interest on that, we have an employee resource groups on that too. And they probably could share some of their trainings and the material they're using throughout the organization.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. There are no more questions.
No more
Thank
questions.
you very much.
Fantastic, really good, thought provokes. I have to say, I think all your new initiatives that you mentioned, your bystander training, a really good bit of thinking as well. Your point about women are often over mentored but under sponsored. So what does great sponsorship look like, I guess, is a really good question we can ask ourselves. And how do we start doing more than some of the basic mentoring or coaching that we do. So some really good thought provokes coming out of your new initiatives there. Thank you both, Caroline and Chris. That was fantastic.